60 hours a week, hated my job, and most importantly, I felt stuck. This is the story of how I learned how to code within 4 months and I got a job. I did it with no computer science degree or a coding bootcamp. I'm going to explain exactly what I learned, how I got a job, and how much that job paid. Let's go. Before I got into tech, I was working a lot of dead-end sales jobs because I dropped out of community college and I didn't really have any other skills. I didn't like the idea of always having to hop from job to job if I didn't like something. I wanted something with a little bit more career mobility long-term. I didn't even really know what coding was. I just knew that the tech industry was, let's say, a great environment for
180 grand now?
200-ish, yeah.
250,000.
400,000 annually.
growth. Yeah. By the way, I'm not knocking sales. I think sales is a really important skill to learn. I just needed to change, and it really just wasn't for me long term. And I wanted to gain the ability to build something of my own. The idea of building something from 0 to 1 seemed like a superpower to me. Day one, I just went on Google and I typed in how to code. That's when I found a site called FreeCodeCamp, and I started to learn about web development. I quickly learned about HTML, CSS, and I learned about my first real programming language called JavaScript. There's a bunch of different programming languages that you could learn, but I personally chose JavaScript because I wanted to build web apps. Even major companies like Uber and Airbnb use it, and there's a massive demand for it in the job market. By using FreeCodeCamp, I started to learn the basics of coding. I learned things like variables, loops, objects, and functions. But even after doing the tutorials, I didn't really feel like I could apply it to anything, and I still didn't even know how to do something as basic as building a website. And I realized that I learned how to code, not exactly how to program. I was writing code to solve logic problems, but I didn't know how to program, which is using the code to build something useful. At this point though, already, I was starting to love the journey. I really liked problem solving, and I could see myself doing something like this long term. So I did what any sane person would do, and I quit my job and I moved to Korea to minimize my expenses, and I decided to learn full time. Learning full time was a lot harder than I thought. I've actually never studied anything this complicated or tough before, and I was quickly starting to realize that I didn't really know how to study at this pace. I would sit in front of my computer and hours would go by. That was when I went online, I typed in how to learn, and I found a course called Learning How to Learn by Barbara Oakley. This course was life-changing. My two main takeaways were, one, it taught me how to learn in spaced segments, a technique called Pomodoros, and the course taught me that I needed to create a dedicated space for learning, so I joined a co-working space so I could focus better. Now, armed with new knowledge, I got back to studying, and it worked. Here's what a normal day looked like. 8 a.m., wake up. 8:30, head to the train station. 9 a.m., arrive at the co-working space. 9:15, coffee, journaling, reviewing the curriculum. 9:30 to 12:30, I would have my first study session where I did 30-minute increments of Pomodoros. From 12:30 to 1:30, I would eat lunch and take a small break, then back to studying. From 2 p.m. to 6:30, it was more 30-minute increments of Pomodoros until I was ready to head out. From 6:30 to 7:30, I would gym 3 times a week, and then 8:30 to 9, I would eat dinner with my grandma, then help her clean. This was my schedule for 6 days a week, no exceptions. The next part of FreeCodeCamp was a lot more challenging, front-end projects. They essentially give you a list of projects that you have to build using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. To me, this felt like a massive jump because I never actually built anything before. I felt stuck at this stage until I found a YouTube channel of this guy named Steven who would stream himself building these projects line by line. By copying him and recreating what he was doing,
Word for word, bar for bar,
I was able to use that experience and build the next couple of projects on my own. I also found a great resource called watchingcode.com where you watch and code. By following along once again and modeling others, the concepts really started to take hold. And I was really starting to understand what I was doing, not just solving a math problem. In exactly 1 month, I ended up earning my FreeCodeCamp front-end developer certificate. I was learning a lot, but I never actually built anything full stack before. Something with a front end or an interface, the thing that you see within the browser, a database where all of the information lives essentially, and a server which handles and manipulates all the data in the back end by taking in requests from the front end. So I still felt like an imposter and not a real developer.
You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
So To become a programmer, I decided to build my first full stack project. Remember Steve with the YouTube channel? I reached out to him to get his assistance to help me build my first full stack web app. We decided to meet 3 times a week. Here's what we did. We picked one major overarching project, which will teach me the basics of CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. These are the foundations for any web application. I decided to clone Pinterest. I honestly don't think I would have gotten a job without this next part, so pay attention. I asked Steve to treat me like a real junior developer working at a company. We implemented a project management tool called Jira. Use Jira to compartmentalize the entire project and write the requirements of exactly what I'd be building. This taught me how to estimate my work and plan how to build an entire web app from zero to launch. We also set the project up on GitHub, which is a version control application. This taught me how to develop different branches for when I was working on certain features, and I could learn how to control different versions of the code. Most tech companies use some version of the 2 applications because being a developer isn't just about knowing how to code, it's about knowing how to work collaboratively with other people as well. Steve grilled me on our pair programming sessions. He was very strict about me keeping the deadlines and the estimates that I originally wrote out for myself. He would constantly question why I was doing what I was doing, and he even taught me the concept of dry. Just don't repeat yourself, or essentially